Thank you for joining us for your reporter behind the story on CBS News Colorado. I'm Brian Flores. Now, the goal of this segment is to give viewers transparency on how a story came to be by asking your reporter who put it together. CBS senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve tells us as families want to make an escape for spring break, more Americans are expected to take a cruise this year than ever before. But cruise lines are increasingly trying to balance the endless buffets and unlimited food options with cutting waste. As CBS News got special early access to Royal Caribbean's brand new Icon of the Seas and new AI technology the cruise line hopes will cut food waste in half. Chris Van Cleve reports.
When the Icon of the Seas set sail on its inaugural voyage last month, the world's biggest cruise ship with a capacity of nearly 10,000 passengers and crew left Miami with more than 130,000 pounds of food. Enough to feed a small city for 7 days at more than 40 restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues. And using a new AI system developed by Royal Caribbean, aiming to prevent as much of that food as possible from going to waste.
I think the single biggest thing that any human being can do is not waste food. And I'm super passionate about it.
Lincoln D'Souza is leading the effort to cut Royal Caribbean's food waste in half by 2025. The new AI system will be able to better predict exactly how much food, down to individual ingredients, a vessel will need for a specific cruise.
We'll be able to tell our crew members and our chefs on board the ship exactly how much of a protein they need, what recipes they're going to use them in, which venues they're going to be used for, just based on information like where the ship is going, the historical data as it relates to our guests, the demographics of the guests sailing on that ship.
During its preview sailings, Icon has been utilizing about 86% of its food. That's well within its goals, but that still means thousands of pounds of food gets thrown out.
Competitor Carnival says its cruise lines, on average, generate 1.3 pounds of food waste per person per day. Their ships have been outfitted with biodigesters, which convert food waste into a liquid. The company says that system breaks down 99% of the food put into it, cutting food waste by 35% fleet-wide. For health and safety reasons, once food is put out at a buffet or served, it can't go back into the kitchen, so it's either eaten or thrown away. But not all unused food gets thrown out on Icon. The ship is home to the world's first floating water park, which is in part powered by food waste, trashed cardboard, and bio-waste. They get converted into pellets that, when heated, give off steam that generates power. Royal Caribbean says it's already reduced food waste by about 33% across its fleet of 28 ships, saving tens of millions of dollars a year and literally tons of food.
All right, back from the cruise right now is Chris Van Cleve. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good to be with you guys in Denver.
All right, well, how did you learn about the AI technology, Chris, used on the Icon of the Seas?
Well, we were on the ship. So as we were gathering a bigger story about the world's largest cruise ship and what goes into that, we learned that one of the things that they were working on there is rolling out this AI system that Royal Caribbean had been working on for years to try to better manage food waste. And it was one of those things in an interview where your ears kind of perk up and you're like, that's really interesting. And we ended up talking about it for several minutes as part of a larger interview. And my producer that was with me on the cruise and I ended up chatting about it after. And we thought it was a really interesting thing, but it didn't really fit in the story we were there to tell. So we looked at it as, can we build out a whole second story while we were there? And that's sort of how this came along. And there's high interest in AI and how that impacts life and how it can be used to make things better. And this is an example, I think, where AI used well can have a real positive impact.
Yeah, and that being said, in terms of the interest of AI, Chris, are other cruise lines planning to use this technology? And how else is AI helping, perhaps on this ship and maybe other modes of transportation?
Yeah, so Royal Caribbean has been developing this in-house for several years. This goes back to pre-pandemic, where they have been entering just a mountain of data, going in and weighing how much watermelon they put out and how much was left, and for every dish that they've made. So they've got a mountain of data that's going to help them with this AI modeling to better predict, on certain cruises that are family heavy, they already know they need to put more chicken tenders on the boat than if it's a Mediterranean cruise per se that caters more to adults. they've talked about perhaps making it available to other cruise lines. Right now, it's proprietary in-house, and I think they want to see how it performs before they would look at spinning that off for larger use. But
Yeah.
they're pretty excited about it, and their hope is that it can get them to their cutting food waste by 50% goal ahead of schedule.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how this all pans out in terms of AI use on the cruise ships. But it's not just AI, Chris. What can people do on cruises to avoid food waste on cruise line and waste in general?
Well, so we learned that particularly in those buffets, once the food gets put out, it's got to be eaten or it's going to be thrown away. So if you're at the buffet, I wouldn't feel guilty about eating the buffet, but think about are your eyes bigger than your stomach? And then I think that's probably the best thing that people can do is just eat what you can eat. The bigger picture is trying to right size what they're serving so that less and less of it gets thrown away.
The debate still continues on whether AI is positive or not, as you know that, Chris. But I'm just curious to know, Chris, do you have any other stories like this that you're working on?
We're looking at how the airlines are using AI. United in Denver, for example, uses a system called Connection Saver, which uses AI and machine learning to look at when a flight is coming in late, can they hold the departure flights, 5-10 minutes to let people get through the B terminal to get to their other gate and still have that departing plane arrive on time. They've been pretty successful with that technology. American is using something called Heat in Dallas, which helps them respond and recover better when there's severe weather that moves through. That's moving out to some of their other hubs. So we're looking at how airlines are utilizing AI in different ways. Alaska Airlines has a system that's helping them turn flights 4 to 5 minutes faster, and that doesn't sound like a big deal on one flight, but if you multiply that by the 1,500 flights a day that they're doing, saving 5 minutes on every flight actually really does start to add up in more productivity.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference out there. Thank you, Chris, for joining us here on CBS Colorado. We always appreciate it. You can also learn about Chris's story on our website, cbscolorado.com. We'll be right back.